The Handkerchief by Great 78. Chapter 42. Discussions, Dodge-Ems, Declarations, Dinner. It took a while for them to fall asleep, and when they awoke in the morning, their limbs were intertwined. It was a new experience, waking up at the bright sunshine of day together. She was curled against him, arms folded and fist balled tightly against his chest. Her eyes opened, the copper a darker, almost milk chocolate this early in the morning. "Hello," he said, with a lazy, hapless smile at her. "Good morning," she answered, kissing him chastely. He tried to deepen the kiss, but she withdrew. "I've got morning breath." "Allow me," he said, and he held his wand under the pillow, muttering, "Giusto spello." Did you just do that wandlessly?" "I've only managed a few spells without a wand," she exclaimed. Draco, who had only carried off a few instances of accidental magic without a wand, was unsurprised. "No, I've got my wand here." He moved his hand under the pillow sheepishly. "But I appreciate the vote of confidence." She smiled playfully at him. "Well, you are the second in our class." "Considering the first in our class is a world-class swot, who eats textbooks for lunch and uses time-turners to take extra classes, I'm pretty sure I never had a chance at anything but second," he mused. "True." His kiss was sweet and filled with longing. It promised a day filled with things nothing short of amazing. Breakfast was a bubbly affair, as Eliza and Theo had already gotten started with mimosas and a full English when they arrived. "Guess what? Theo invited me to stay the rest of the day with you all, so I'm not going back this morning. My mum said it was all right." Draco knew the girls had told their parents that they were doing a girls' trip, alone. Well, that's great, but—" Draco gave an inquisitive look at Theo. "What about the match?" He and Theo had planned to stay for the Falmouth Falcons Quidditch match later in the day. "Boys and their silly football," Eliza waved cheerily. "There will always be another match. Let's visit the countryside." As Eliza and Theo snogged over their egg cups, Draco turned to Hermione. "What's football?" he whispered. "Quidditch on the ground. No snitch, no bludgers, no bats, no brooms, no rings," she muttered. "What else is there?" he asked, eyes wide, but dropped the question at her hardened look. Eliza had pulled herself away from Theo's lips long enough to withdraw a few brochures from under her place-setting. "Who's up for an amusement park?" Hours later, as the train trundled them back to London, Draco finally felt like his brain might be reattaching itself to whatever normally tethered it in place. Muggles had odd ways of entertaining themselves, crashing tiny vehicles into each other, strapping into small carts and whipping through loops of metal. An adventure that reminded Draco of the ride with goblins to his family's vault in Gringotts Bank. And swinging high up into the air. The last reminded him most of flying, but without the need to focus on controlling the broom. It was freeing and lovely, and he thanked Hermione and Eliza profusely for the experience, although he really didn't enjoy the haunted house. Muggles' ideas about witches were downright frightening. Eliza was amazed that neither he nor Theo had ever been to an amusement park, and had wanted them to get the full sense of it. After the 4th bag of candy floss and the 5th serving of hot doughnuts, Draco felt like the Dodge-Ems were crashing together in his stomach, and had to go sit down on a bench for a while. His gaze moved from the seats down the car where Theo and Eliza had fallen asleep on the train, fingers intertwined, to Hermione, who was fighting sleep next to him, her legs draped across his, back leaning against the train wall. "Hermione." She'd asked, eyes moving beneath her eyelids, but not opening. She smiled languidly. I love you." Her eyes flew open dazedly. "What?" "I love you," he said again, with more certainty. "Draco, She started. "No, you don't have to," he said at the same time, He didn't want her to feel that she needed to say it back. It was enough that she knew how he felt. "I love you too." It was a whisper, but she had said it. He exhaled a breath he did not realize he'd been holding. They locked hands, and he pulled her even closer, kissing her deeply. It was hard for him to imagine feeling any happier than he felt right now. Once in London, they said their farewells. Theo quietly asked Hermione about how to use a telephone, and was disappointed to learn that there were no telephone lines at Hogwarts, but then heartened when she mentioned mobile phones, as well as how the Owl post office in Hogsmeade could send and accept Muggle mail. He and Eliza took a short walk, a small distance away, to bid each other farewell, non-verbally. Draco took his chance to do the same. He wrapped his arms around Hermione's waist, staring down into her bright copper eyes. "I'll see you in less than 2 months, yeah?" he asked softly. 6 weeks, she answered with a smile. 5 weeks and 5 days, really, he supplied. "Who's counting, though?" she murmured, nuzzling his neck. "I am," he returned, bending to place an open-mouthed kiss on the shell of her ear. He felt her smile against him and squeezed her tighter. Back at the Standard Hotel, he and Theo discreetly shrank their luggage again, and waited in the corridor for Basil to return from helping one of the old regulars at the hotel. "So sorry, chaps. Just needed to jimmy the lock to the room for Major Gowers. Poor gent, he's a wizard, but he often forgets and needs a spot of assistance." Basil unlocked the office door and led the way into the space. "Now, where did I put that flue powder? Oh, yes, here it is. By golly, I would lose my head if it weren't attached most days." The young wizards chuckled and readied themselves for the journey, but something caught Draco's eye. It was the Norwegian blue parrot in the cage, sitting in exactly the same position it had been in Saturday morning. Basil, good chap." Draco turned to the tall, thin man. "Your parrot, is he all right?" "Why, yes, I believe he's jolly good." "And you're sure he's not expired?" "Expired? Oh, no. The owner of the pet shop assures me that he's only resting. I tell you, boys, he's a much calmer pet than my last one. For that I'm glad. Had a rabbit last year. Quite a terror he could be. He could move faster than you could blink, and ate me out of house and hearth. Such an eater, that boy." Basil continued, droning on about his past pets as Draco began spinning into the grate, glad to leave the unusual man behind. Back at the manor, Draco felt the unease and darkness descend upon him as easily and completely as a fog. Where before there had been light and fun, now, as he looked at Bellatrix's grey teeth and dark-stained lips, he felt nothing but foreboding. "Draco, my nippy-whippy! How was the Quidditch match? Who won?" His stomach lurched. Thankfully, his mother hurried in to kiss him hello. "Draco, did you enjoy the Falcon's win, darling? I listened to the end of the match on the wireless. What a fun finish! Jacob's catching the snitch with his robes that way." He caught on quickly. "Yes, it was remarkable. Quite a catch. A strong win that puts us ahead in the league." "Well, now that you're back, you'll be pleased to know that we're all going to enjoy a lovely dinner together." Bellatrix smiled widely, her darkened lips stretching thin against her red gums. "Lovely," echoed Draco. Draco's first encounter with Voldemort was so frightening, he'd been unable to eat. Between his weekend away and spending most of his time in his suite, he had been avoiding Voldemort so well that he'd nearly become complacent. After all, he had been home for 3 weeks without an encounter with the Dark Lord. But tonight, when Draco entered the dining room, he was already seated, clad in dark robes and looking truly creepy. Draco was unsure what to expect of the Dark Lord. In his mind he pictured the man as tall, broad, and overbearing with dark features, almost like a dark-haired and dark-eyed Lucius Malfoy. The reality was highly disconcerting. He was tall, yes, but the Dark Lord's skin was a pallid greyish-white. He had no hair, no nose, and nearly no lips, only an odd gash for a mouth. But it was his red eyes that made Draco's skin crawl. They seemed to be able to see minute details, but reflected nothing in their matte depths. Draco's immediate impression was that if a Dementor had a proper face, that this is what it would look like. Other than a nearly whispered, "Good evening," to Draco and the two witches, a greeting returned with politeness and deference, the Dark Lord stayed silent throughout the meal. Draco picked at his salmon like a man waiting for a summons to the guillotine. During the second course, his pocket where he kept his handkerchief warmed. He pushed thoughts of Slytherin Quidditch practice to the front of his mind and began breaking down potion ingredients, distilling memories. Finally, as the desserts were served, Lord Voldemort spoke. "Draco!" Voldemort spoke in a high, breathy timbre that contrasted oddly with the malice in his eyes. "I am pleased to see you here for the summer. We have much work to do, and I know that I can count on your loyalty." He chanced a quick look at his mother across the table, who merely gave an imperceptible nod. "Yes, my lord," Draco said quietly.
"Draco will be most honoured to stand by your side as the head of the Malfoy family, my lord. He will assuredly bring honour to this house."
Bellatrix spoke with a supercilious tone of respect that Draco had never heard from her. "Yes," Lord Voldemort said, drawing out his S in a way that made Draco's skin crawl. "Let us, however, discuss our plans on a different evening. I must rest now. Wormtail." At the summons, Peter Pettigrew scurried out of his hiding place behind a large sculpture, bowing to Lord Voldemort as he walked swiftly to him. "I am tired from my long journey in the night." Draco and the two women were chivied out of the room by the little rat man. Draco was confused until his mother whispered, "He is still a bit weak from his recovery, and he was travelling last night. That takes his toll on him. He sometimes needs help walking and doesn't want anyone to see it." That seemed odd to Draco. If he went to Hogwarts about 50 years ago, the man should only be around 65 or so. For a wizard, this was barely middle-aged, nowhere near elderly. "Mother, I must see to my schoolwork." Draco bowed slightly to his mother and aunt, and turned to the stairs that led to his wing of the manor. He had been using the excuse of summer reading and essays to spend time alone in his room, away from Bellatrix and his mother. He had tried for the first several days to act as a shield for Narcissa, to take some of the pressure off of her in having to entertain and distract the manic woman. But Narcissa had insisted that she was all right and that Draco needed to focus on his occlumency and stay out of Bellatrix's sight. As soon as he reached his room and warded the space, he withdrew his handkerchief and spoke, Vinca Major. Hermione's words bloomed into sight. "How are you doing? Did you make it home all right?" He answered, "Yes, I'm back home." Her reply was immediate. "Have you seen Bee since you returned? Has she mentioned anything more about you standing in for your father?" Draco sent back quickly. "V arrived back here this morning. I've just met him, and we had dinner as a group together. Told me there was much to be done and that he was counting on my loyalty. Said we would discuss it later." There was a bit of a pause before she responded. "What is he like?" "Gives me the creeps. I don't like him. He's got red eyes, and somehow Bee reins in all her crazy around him. Not sure which is worse, Her being insane, or her bottling all that insanity up to use later.
What do you think he's going to make you do?
I don't know. I'll update you as soon as I do.
They exchanged good nights and wishes for sweet dreams, but Draco was afraid that it didn't matter at all. After the encounter with Lord Voldemort, he was not sure if any dream would ever be sweet again.
Chapter 43. The Mission. What have you and the Weasel's family been getting up to? Draco asked her a week or so later. After spending a few weeks with her parents in the mundane world, Hermione decided to visit the Weasley family at their home, departing a few days after returning from their holiday to Sandwich. She had now been there a few days. Draco knew that she slept in a bedroom with the youngest Weasley, the girl of the painful and nasal-clearing bat bogey hex. But he also had eyes, and could tell that Weasley liked Hermione. He worked to keep his jealousy tightly sealed in a potions flagon in his mind's cupboard. He had no control over the Weasleys' actions, but he felt certain that Hermione wouldn't be interested in the ginger. Still, the thought of the two of them cozying up over late-night hot chocolate, or midday strolls in the garden, rankled him.
Molly is in a right state. Between Fleur being here all summer, and the twins starting this new venture, she's hardly calmed down all summer. Harry is here, too. He's been here a week. Too many people.
Draco smiled, imagining the state of things there. He didn't know Molly Weasley, other than to see her offer comfort to Diggory's parents after the Triwizard Tournament, but she seemed like the type that never really calmed down. Having her oldest son marry a French girl who had boys falling all over her everywhere she went, and 2 sons quit school with mere weeks left to go before finishing, it had to have been a difficult summer to be in charge of the Weasley clan. All that being said, Draco would gladly have spent all summer listening to a Mother Weasley rant over having a single dinner with the Dark Lord. Don't let the Weasleys get you down. I'll write back when I can. Dinner that evening had languished long past the point of comfort for Draco. His occlumency had been tested, he was certain. There had been a moment over the soup course in which he'd felt a chill, and a quick, dull pain, like a cold spoon probing into his brain. Before he'd realized it, he had put up his hands to his temples, scrunching his eyes with the discomfort. He fired up a memory of a particularly rainy and windswept Quidditch match against Hufflepuff in 2nd year. Asphodel. Gertie roots. Salamander tails. Lord Voldemort may have been a highly skilled legilimens at one time, but this skill had clearly diminished, either with time, his use of dark magic, or his unusual revival from wherever he had been. Draco hoped he wouldn't improve with practice. If it hurt like that every time, he'd at least have warning.
"Are you all right, Draco?"
his mother asked in concern. "Yes, just a slight headache. I'm sure it's just the change in weather, going so quickly from cool to warm." Draco knew that if he called attention to it, expressed any idea that he knew exactly what had happened, the Dark Lord would try to be more careful, less obvious next time. He blamed the sudden warmth outside. Today had dawned sunny and warm, unlike the previous cool, gloomy days before. He had tried to take advantage of it by taking his Nimbus 2001 out for a while, but his heart wasn't in it.
"Yes, it was particularly miserable today," said Bellatrix.
After dinner, he found himself alone with Voldemort. Narcissa and Bellatrix retiring to the solarium, and Peter... well, Draco couldn't be asked to care where Peter was. He was just glad the Rat-Man was gone for a few days. They walked leisurely to his father's study, with Voldemort unlocking the door, as though it was entirely within his right. Draco resented the intrusion on behalf of his family. Though he didn't feel much love for Lucius, it was still difficult to watch this monster sitting at his father's desk.
"Draco!
I am pleased to have a moment to talk, wizard to wizard. How are your studies going at Hogwarts? What OWLs did you take?"
Draco was momentarily speechless. He was asking about Draco's studies. Ancient runes, arithmancy, astronomy, care of magical creatures, charms, defense against the dark arts, divination, herbology, history of magic, potions, and transfigurations, my lord.
"That is quite an impressive list. 11 OWLs is a very great accomplishment."
"Thank you, my lord."
"And I understand that you play Seeker in Quidditch, as well as a prefect. That is a busy schedule to keep. And you likely have a few witches to keep your bed warm as well, I suppose."
In his mind, Draco chopped daisy roots and stirred peppermint and syrup of hellebore counterclockwise 8 times. "You are correct, my lord. It is a busy schedule, but I enjoy my time there." Voldemort flicked his wand in Draco's direction, and Draco fought not to flinch. Behind him he heard the clink of lowball glasses being filled with ice, and a crystal decanter being opened.
"Shall we share a drink to toast your 11 OWLs?
Voldemort's high, clear voice grated on Draco's senses. "Thank you, my lord." Draco heard one of the glasses crash back down to the tray. The ice and fire whiskey spilled, dripping down the sides of the table. "May I assist with the drinks, my lord?" Draco asked solicitously.
"No, I do not wish it. I prefer to make my own," Lord Voldemort said crisply.
In truth, Draco knew that he preferred Pettigrew to fetch his food and drinks, and that the Rat-Man tested all of the Dark Lord's food before it was eaten. His mother had mentioned this days ago, because with Wormtail away from the manor the last several days, Bellatrix had performed this task instead. The drink righted and refilled itself, then levitated its way to Draco, whilst Lord Voldemort's sailed across the room into his outstretched hand. After a moment, Voldemort spoke again.
"Draco, your family's loyalty means a great deal to me. This is why I was so disappointed in your father's failure earlier this year."
"I understand, my lord."
"I have decided that you shall have the chance to make this grievance up to me. It is a big honor, a very great honor indeed."
To Draco's ears it sounded like anything but an honor. "Yes, my lord," questioned Draco.
"I have a task for you to complete. It is of highest importance, and it is a task that I can trust to no one else."
Once again, the last letter of Lord Voldemort's words dragged out sinisterly. Draco was silent, tense, waiting. He had learned that in situations in which the other person had the upper hand, it was best to wait for the other person to speak if possible.
"The battle at the Ministry was a difficult one, as I'm sure you know. Many of my most faithful followers were captured. I expect them to be free again soon, but I do not know when this will happen. In the meantime, I find that there is a task that must be carried out by a loyal, well-placed servant."
Here, Lord Voldemort stopped for a coughing fit. Once it had passed, he took a long sip of his fire whiskey and continued.
"Bellatrix assures me of your loyalty, and you are already well placed for this task. If you fail, I cannot guarantee your safety, or that of your family. Will you accept this task?"
Draco knew that this question was more of a formality than a real curiosity. If he were to refuse, he knew it would spell his torture, his mother's torture, and quite possibly his own death. "Of course, my lord."
Draco still had no idea what this task involved, but he was certain it would not be simple or easy. "Very well. The task is simple. You must kill Albus Dumbledore." Draco was uncertain how he got back to his suite that night. The blood seemed to have vacated his head, but hadn't recollected anywhere else in his body. His entire being felt numb and cold. It was an impossible task. Regardless of his advanced age and whatever nonsense Bellatrix and the Daily Prophet had been spouting for months, Dumbledore was the most powerful wizard of their time. He had defeated Voldemort himself only a few months before. He was a beloved headmaster, wise and intelligent beyond most. There was no chance that Draco could defeat him. It was a death sentence to even try. He wasn't sure how long he'd been sitting there, in a shocked stupor, when his handkerchief warmed in his pocket. With trembling hands he removed it from its hiding place, and somehow choked out the words, "Vinca Major." "How was your day?" It took him a moment to form the words. "Dinner with him." There was a long pause before a reply came back. "Did he ask you to do anything?" Draco thought hard about what to write. This impossible mission was not something he could share with Hermione. To kill Dumbledore would not only be difficult, it would be nearly impossible for Draco. If she knew that he'd even been asked to do so, that he had accepted such a heinous assignment, she would never look at him the same way again. He answered, "He didn't ask anything." It was the partial truth. There had been no real asking, only a telling, a demand on Voldemort's part. But Draco needed time before he told anyone about this. Time to figure this out, to decide what to do. His mother, however, seemed to already know when he went down for breakfast the next morning. She hugged him hard, and held his hands and his gaze far longer than normal before Bellatrix entered. That night, a soft knock on the door revealed his mother. Her eyes were bloodshot, hair hanging lank from her bun. She entered without a word, closing the door silently and crossing to the far wall, turning on the wireless with her wand as loudly as she dared to drown out the sound of their voices. Draco looked at her, his own face flooded with fear. "Mum, I don't know what to do. If I can't do what he wants, he'll kill me. Kill all of us."
"My dragon, I understand. I didn't want this for you. You're too kind-hearted. It will not be possible for you to... I'm going to try to work something out."
Narcissa was trying to remain calm, but her frantic eyes betrayed her. "Mother, what are you talking about? There's no working this out. He's going to kill me if I can't kill Dumbledore. I just hope he doesn't kill you as well." At this, Draco could no longer hold in his tears, because he knew that in his hour of failure, in his final torture, his occlumency would be at his weakest. At that point, everyone he knew, his mother, Hermione, Theo, Blaise, even Snape, would be in danger. It would be better to kill myself now, he thought. But looking into his mother's eyes, seeing the pain and fear and worry there, he knew he could not do that to her. The following night his mother gave him a stern look over dinner that reminded Draco of years past, in which Narcissa would warn him to behave himself in public, or else. He found himself sitting up straighter in his seat. At the end of dinner she gave an imperceptible jerk of the head towards the door, when Lord Voldemort and Bellatrix were not looking. "Mother, may I be excused? I'd like to listen to the end of the Falcons match. If they win, they advance in the league."
"Of course, Draco."
He stood and made a hasty escape, doubling back as silently as he could once the doors had swung shut. He concealed himself behind a large bust on a plinth. After a few minutes, Lord Voldemort and Bellatrix left the dining room, speaking in hushed whispers.
"My lord, may I bring you something to drink in your quarters? Perhaps we can discuss your plans for the Ministry of Magic."
Bellatrix's voice was once again controlled, though barely.
"No, I do not wish it. As I've told you, I've no need for your particular kind of company anymore."
Bellatrix looked around wildly as though worried someone might overhear. Draco fought to make himself as small as possible, cringing with disgust.
"And you feel Draco can complete his mission?"
It seemed difficult for Bellatrix to disguise her scorn and disbelief.
"He must."
"Sissa thinks it will be difficult for him."
"She must not speak of it to anyone."
"Yes, my lord, she knows."
"Find an elf." "Nagini must be milked. I need it. This food is quite rich. I cannot handle it so often."
At this, Voldemort started to the grand staircase, and Bellatrix to the kitchens. Draco wondered briefly if the elves refused to answer to her calls. After a moment, the dining room door opened a small crack.
"Draco!"
He hurried back into the dining room, where Narcissa closed and warded and silenced the room.
"I will be out of the manor tonight, Draco. Ward your doors and use your occlumency whilst I'm away," she said in a whisper.
"Where are you going?" Draco was trying not to panic. This was the first time his mother had left him alone in the house with his Aunt Bellatrix and Lord Voldemort. Peter Pettigrew had been away for a week or so at this point, and Voldemort's isolation without the rat-faced man had drawn the Dark Lord out of his rooms far more often than was usual.
"I need to pay someone a visit. Do not trouble your mind about it, my dragon."
She slipped away quickly before anyone could notice that they had been alone in the room together. As she was the brightest witch of her age, Hermione could tell that Draco was hiding something. She said so the next time she wrote.
"Please, just tell me what it is. I can't help if I don't know anything."
"There's no way for you to help. It's not something in which you should be involved,
Draco, please trust me."
He could not respond for a moment. Then finally, "Hermione, I do trust you, but I cannot talk about anything." He trusted her more than she knew. It was himself and his own abilities that he didn't trust. Thank you for listening to this chapter of The Handkerchief by Great 78.